Hi everyone, welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm Lisa from Alconost, and today we're so excited to explore what it takes to grow and scale games in 2026. We're joined today by Artur Davidenko, product marketing manager at Meta, and currently a board advisor for a platform that is improving live operations. Artur brings to us over a decade of experience in apps and games across roles like marketing, growth, people management, biz dev, project management, and entrepreneurship. Arthur, before we dive in, would you like to briefly introduce yourself and tell us more about your journey and what is currently driving your work in the tech and games industry?
Sure, Lisa. Thanks for having me. To probably add just a couple of brushes. Um, yeah, I started in game dev 11 years ago. Spent most of my time in game studios doing production and marketing. And afterwards, I moved to platform side, which is, for me, it was Google and Meta. And I was focused on go-to-market and sales and marketing on the platform side. I think what is super important for all people to know that obviously now I'm in Meta, I'm not in game studio, so probably some of the small touches that I would have had in a game studio I could have lost, but overall strategy is still here. And then what's driving the daily work for me now is privacy at Meta, which includes both advertising, non-advertising, lots of different data slices. So that's me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I actually think that having this two-way perspective and having a well-versed perspective across like platforms and games and apps is actually what we're giving you right now. This 316 perspective of the topics we are currently going to discuss. I think it really gives context to why your current perspective will be so unique for scaling studios. We can start by looking at the most hot topic, like current state of the gaming market and the challenges the studios are facing today. Because the industry has been impacted by a lot of going on, like AI disruption, layoffs, mergers. From what you're seeing in the industry, do you think that studios, compared to what was going on a couple of years ago, should rethink their strategy and growth right now?
I would have if I were them. The only thing I wanted to say is that like gaming is bigger, still bigger than cinema and music industries, and they went through this similar consolidation phase well before the AI disruption. So you kind of have some examples already where there are more bigger labels and film distribution companies in those entertainment industries, and gaming still has much more independent studios, like 10 times or more independent studios than those industries, which is great. So a lot of people can still be independent. But I think when it comes to game development itself, I don't think much will change, but the way you produce art, 3D animation. So you will be able to have less people and produce more, which is good for business, bad for employment. But then on the distribution side, there are no new big distribution channels. You still have the same distribution channels, app stores on mobile, game stores on PC. You just have too much supply and too much competition. So the quality will conflict with AI in a way that, yes, you can produce more, but users and players, they already have too much. So you need to be able to test more rather than ship and release more, which I think what many non-gaming publishers and developers already know for many years, and game developers will just need to join this like more R&D like hypothesis testing approach, which could be difficult for some because like people are creative and they don't want to test, they just want to give players games, but you need to. That's I think the main challenge from where I stand.
Yeah, that is really interesting point. So, regarding the faster iteration and more hypothesis testing, do you think there are there is this choice between being more experimental versus cautious, because the budgets are already kind of tight, and it calls for being more cautious, but it also calls for more experiments. And where do you think this balance lies?
I think that's a great question. I think there is no one wonderful answer, but the one that I have top of mind is community management becomes more important for AA, AAA like games, which could not be just tested via like one ad creative and one prototype and retention day zero, and that's it. Like it's possible in mobile for many games. All the big games, you would need to double down community management, and that is difficult to automate with AI. So you still need people. The good thing is that you now have much more organic discovery exposure, thanks to all the social apps and what's not. So you actually can find your audience quicker if you iterate with the audience. So the I think the main obstacle, which is like a business marketing type of a task rather than a creative one, so you need those type of business people, like you and my humble self, is that you cannot control social apps. The way people behave there, you don't know, and you will never know, because fortunately, for all the privacy reasons. But you know that there are a lot of people there. So you just need to find a way to find your audience with your early versions of your hypothesis of your new game, and try to reach this audience via iterations. And probably you will not reach them via iteration number zero or number one, but you need to continue doing it. And it feels like it becomes a part of a business model, not only for like big old school game publishers like it was before for them, but for mid-sized studios. And many of them will need to learn how to do it.
Um, that is, I really like how you pointed to the importance of communities, because it's always been central to games, but now it's I guess it's more central than ever to all kinds of games, especially considering that there can be passion projects from even solo game developers. However, it does require iterations, and it got me thinking. I wasn't thinking about it until now, but it's kind of born as a question. How can, for example, let's say there is a passionate solo game developer who is only entering the field, and they are eager to build a community around their game. Um, what would they do organically? What would their first step or strategy look like from your point of view?
Uh, I think to go as niche as possible, um, and double down on the people in the niche which like your niche of the game. Meaning, if it's not a roguelike game, which is too broad, but like an action RPG type of game with a particular setting based on a particular story. If you like those type of thing yourself, I would build this type of game, because nowadays you can really find these people um, via community management and social apps. And if you find them and they give you the signal that they like it, iterate with them, um, rather than just like building like a huge big game, spending 6 months and then learning feedback from people that, meh, it's okay, but I will not pay for that. And
Mhm.
I think it becomes more important to plug in people early, and it takes time, and it's really difficult for creative people because some people will not be that gentle with their feedback.
Yeah.
That's the way internet works those days. But if you can take it, and you can work on it, and you can find something that will boost your creativity rather than just like harm yourself, I think that's the balance which will help like all the solo folks, um, alongside with patience, of course, because nothing is guaranteed. you can work for 3 months and there will be nothing, and then one reel or one post or one stream will help you to boost your visibility.
It does seem today is the day, the age of creativity. Where creativity matters more, like the technical execution, because it's less the barriers are much lower. And circling back to what you said about the niche. It made me think about the point that might play the devil's advocate to your point. Something I read recently, a take about how now that there is such a low barrier to entry, it can give birth to some passion projects that are extremely niche, but they are driven on creativity rather than a clear go-to-market strategy and optimization for growth and scalability. And this, in its turn, contributes to the market saturation, and it can get a little chaotic. So, do you think there is a need for some balance between this passion-driven development and clear business plan and go-to-market strategy? Or maybe it's not as important when we are at the stage of hypothesis testing.
That's a good question. I think generally um, production and creativity are, philosophically speaking, in conflict. Production has a goal, creativity doesn't have a goal. When you create, you express yourself, and that's by itself the hidden goal of creativity.
Yeah,
But if we move from this philosophical speaking to a simple answer, I would say when you buy a house, if you buy it for you to be a home, that's one thing. If you buy it as an investment, that's another thing.
yeah,
You can buy the same flat or the same house, but the way you look at it will define how you will live in this place for like some years. I think the same comes to the solo game publisher, like a small team developing a game. If they have like a main job and they can afford to be creative and just express themselves for some time, I think early it can help because there's so much supply competition of entertainment those days. They can find their audience, but if it's about creativity for them, they will not have like a high expectations which will push them to be more successful, because
yeah,
success is subjective. If it's
yeah.
just that for them, I think that's enough, and you don't need to bring like you don't need to like put chaos into order everywhere.
Yeah.
If you want to build a scalable business for like 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then we talk about R&D, you talk about process, not because you need order everywhere, because you just need to measure what happened. Like you need to be able to measure, okay, this idea worked probably because of that, and this idea didn't work probably because of that. With that knowledge, I moved to iteration number 2. With that knowledge, I moved to iteration number 3. Like some measurement will help you, and there are many tools that will give this measurement to you, and you will learn along the way because you want to build a business. Like both scenarios are totally fine. They just require you to be a different person, like, and focus on different things. Expressing yourself in one way in one scenario, and like measuring what works and what doesn't work in a second one.
Has this philosophy of not always putting the structure to chaos, which seems actually perfectly reasonable in the scenario when indeed someone has a job and they have some passion, they want to implement it, and they can do it today very easily. So I'm wondering if this philosophy of iterations and freedom for a little chaos has emerged just recently, or have you advised games and startups even in the early years?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, I think in my personal experience in the last 10 years, I found that actually tools and technology gave lots of non-structured people an easy way to be more structured.
Yeah,
The super naive and basic example would be we didn't have Asana and Trello 15 years ago. And now everyone uses Asana and Trello for task management.
yeah, yeah,
We didn't have Slack 10 plus years ago, and now everyone uses Slack because it's easy, and some people are copying Slack and creating new Slacks of the world for messaging. Same goes with game development. There were no Unity before. Everyone had their own game engines and spent lots of time debugging them. Nowadays, Unity introduced AI debugging, and it's allowing you not even think about structure, but the way UI of this game development and game promotion products is built is for you to not leave, meaning that really they really want you to go with the flow that they think is the most productive flow to create and advertise the game. You can push back, you can talk to them if you're big enough. If you're a small game developer and advertisers, probably will not have an opportunity to talk to them, but something will change in these products for you to be more structured and to have some order, um, no matter do you want it or not, because big advertisers and big developers want it because it's the business for them. That's the main full-time job for them, and it will happen. You can just use it or you can ignore it. I would have used it if I were in the place in the seat of small game developers.
It's really valuable to think about from this perspective of how things are slowly changing and how it's probably uh, it will integrate into our lives just as seamlessly as Trello and Slack have integrated into our lives. This have give birth to another question. So. You seem to be really aware of the situation in games now, and what are your main how do you keep your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on, considering this is now your passion beyond your current work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think mostly through talking to people. There are events, offline ones, and then there are group chats in WhatsApp and other messengers. I think what is one of the best things in game development industry for me is that people are quite open, and you can really talk to them about games like the full day. Um, what is the best game? What is the failure of the year in commercial world, in like Steam indie world, in AAA world? That's I think the main way for me. And then obviously I'm reading all the media, small ones like Mobile Gamer or big ones like Game Industry Biz. It helps. Without talking to people, I would lose my touch, and I think I lost some of it. Um, but I'm talking to commercial teams in game development world almost every week, like marketers and all of them, just to be sure that the company I'm working at is not losing this touch. Even though it's not my full-time job, I still care about this industry, and I can connect right people to do the right things.
Yeah. Um, I think even the fact that you keep in touch with this, even without working directly in the field right now, keeping in touch with this wider of a community and actively seeking it just shows that you will be you will be as knowledgeable as always here. But I also saw that you are a consultant right now for a Balancy. Is it? It's more of an app, right, than a game. So it's a platform for live ops stuff, or that is targeted at games, but it's more of a platform itself.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a platform, basically SaaS type of a business, which is targeting mostly game studios, medium and big ones, which want to manage their content and monetization. Basically, if you have a huge catalog of stuff inside your game, and then you want to make this stuff monetizable, it will take you lots of time, and it will require some people to be super structured and serious
Yeah.
about it. So this platform, like the platforms I mentioned before, just bring order in few clicks, and that's the thing, and that's one of the way I'm being connected to game advertisers, because I still need to talk to them in order to help balance help them. So that's the way. Yes.
It seems that also the fact that you have the well-versed perspective, like apps and games, those industries can also contextualize each other for you. So you recently wrote a post about go-to-market differences for apps and games. Maybe you could share with our viewers what would you say are, for example, like now that we are moving. We discussed how some lesser projects would not rely do not have to rely on structured business plan approach, but maybe for some medium or bigger titles. Who are building their go-to-market strategy, what would be the key differences between apps and games in that uh, aspect?
Yeah, I think if I summarize it and shorten it, and then please ask questions if you have
Yeah.
one. The first is business model. Many apps are driven by rational in-app purchases or subscription. Subscription, I would say, is the closest to games because many times subscriptions are emotional choices. But still, trial is emotional. 1 year subscription is rational. In-app purchase, which opens up some fitness or some health or some productivity, some mental health content for you, is normally a rational choice. And the reason you will be and you will stay with this app is also rational. It solves some of the problems that you have in your life. And normally, games do not solve problems. They reduce anxiety, according to like research from Google Play a few years ago. But I don't think it's like a direct goal for games to reduce anxiety. So the reasons why people come there and the business models are different, and you need to really understand that when you're trying to monetize your content, what is the best time to show it, to what segment of players or users, and why and when. And it requires measurement, and it's much more difficult to measure than what I just said. And the second thing I would say, multi-touch marketing is a fact for e-commerce, retail, and apps for many, many years already. For games, it's a fact for PC games. Normally, players do not buy big games until they saw some stream, they read about it, they talked about it, and only then they buy. Versus in mobile games, it's normally like a really quick decision.
Yeah.
For apps, I think it's much closer to like PC games. When people read reviews, they saw like an influencer in social app saying something about it. They clicked on the website, they scrolled, they maybe saved, or probably they forgot about it. And then retargeting and other influencers and other reviewers in search, it's all multi-touch, and it's all affecting the reason that they buy something or install something in non-gaming world. I think it will become a reality for game. It already becoming a reality for gaming in the last 2 or 3 years. Um, they will need to be just more systematic and serious about the measurement of it. So that's for me the biggest difference. Everything else is too small to look at it as like a systematic difference.
Yeah.
My point of view.
So one of the core differences, if I'm understand correctly, is rational versus emotional use, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about the practice when apps that are for the rational use they implement the emotional design tactics? Have you seen this with like gamification techniques to increase the emotional response? Have you seen this in your practice, and what do you think about this? Because I've seen different perspectives. One including that sometimes if you tap too much into the emotional aspect in the rational app, for example, productivity app, and you implement too much gamification, the user becomes so immersed into the gamification tactics that, or for example, like gaming, keeping the streak, or that it on the one hand increases workload for them, and it becomes just like another job, and on the other hand, it from engagement distracts from the core purpose of the app. So have you seen this? Where would you see, and if yes, where would you draw the line to balance these things?
Yeah, I've seen it many times. I publicly consulted like Beeline in Kazakhstan to integrate games into their apps, and we spent many months, and they spent many months before me and after me to really land it. And many other companies I consulted just dropped it because it didn't work. What didn't work normally on the high level is the fact that they either didn't understood or didn't want to believe that what you integrate in is the meta layer, which is a simple concept for all game developers. You have the core gameplay, you have the meta gameplay. Core gameplay is the normally is what you monetize, and meta gameplay is normally what gives additional engagement because there are so many games and you just want to add something additional for people to stick around. If you would have a choice, you wouldn't have meta, you would just have core gameplay. But it is what it is. In your app, would it be a productivity app, for example, you need to have a proper product manager and UX designer whom are knowledgeable enough to build a cycle, and the cycle both in terms of assets, time spent, rewards, and the way it affects the user flow in your app. So when the core functionality happens, when and why the meta gamification functionality happens, what and why it gives to the user. So then, of course, continue using the core functionality of the app. If it's not built in terms of the unit economy and UX design, games are fun. So games can take attention like that, and that they will harm your monetization. So they will not harm the time spent. Probably people will spend more time, but they will not pay because the reason you integrated this is to actually increase the engagement. You cannot take money for games inside of non-gaming app.
Yeah.
It's really weird and difficult. The conversion will be low, probably, although there are not many examples. That's my assumption. But you need to give them engagement, and then you need to drop it. You need to take this away from them, so they would want to get back, but not like immediately in some time. And that's like a whole design exercise, and it's really difficult. So that's why I think you need to either do it like this, or you don't need to have like high expectations from this idea because it's too complex.
Thank you. That is very insightful. I've also read the take on how yes, if you implement it like just as a gamification component, it does drive engagement, but it does is it connected to the design of the user of the user journey, and if not, it may be a little bit aimless. Yeah, and you also mentioned the beeline in Kazakhstan. Could you maybe, if you can, share how did you solve this challenge of integrating gameplay into the design? How did it become the workable example of gamification in apps?
Sure. Um, to be humble, I was a part of the team. So I helped. I was a consultant to the team at Beeline, so we did it together. What we did was we did a user research to understand who is the main target audience for whom we want to increase the engagement. Different people used Beeline, which is a telco app for people outside of Kazakhstan. It's something like O2 in UK or Vodafone in Europe. And basically, different people use different this app for different reasons. We targeted women of a particular age with a particular taste for particular games. Those are the games that we simplified and built inside of the telco app, and then the UX and design began. We spent a few months trying to offer this game experience in the right time and in the right quantity to not overload people, to not give them all the games straight away and just give it for free and that's it. And then slice the rewards with a linear, simple progression, but in a way that will show them you spend a bit more time, we give you a bit more traffic, you use it in your real life. You spend a bit more time, we give you a bit more traffic, and you use it in your real life. So by building a habit step by step, linearly, and not giving it all away, we didn't distract them from the main use reason they're there, to use it for traffic and to pay for some services in this telco app. And these iterations and what we learned from users through these iterations before implementing the changes help us just to land it safely. And then they just basically repeated and just added more games until the catalog was too full. And by too full, you basically mean that you see that users spend dramatic amount of their time in like X games, and no matter what new content you present to them, they do not touch it because it's too much for now. They have enough. So maybe by the time they exhaust it, which you can predict, you can add more stuff and you can rotate it. But at the time we were doing it, we were not even close to that.
Thank you for sharing this example. So if we draw the conclusion here, is gamification is in apps is worth it if we consider design and unit economics. So this would be the bottom line.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I think there was another topic we were hoping to cover regarding which brings me back to the smaller studio. So in the beginning of our conversation, we discussed how smaller studios can grow and test their ideas, and this now brought me to how you were in venture capital, right, at some point, and so. From your perspective, if a game is growing, when does it make sense for it to grow through venture capital investments, or what are some other ways to accelerate the growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't mind, I will start answering the second one because it will affect the first one.
Yes.
What are the ways? The ways are you use your own money if you have it, and that's the first and simplest way. You take it from friends, your family, or from the bank if you're in a country with a small interest rate, and then you build it because it's a small niche something, you can afford it. If you don't have this, which for example I'm not from the family or from the country where I would have had it, then you could find an angel investor, which you could find by going through events and asking entrepreneurs, do you know like an angel investor? Probably he or she has their own business or game studio and they just invest in smaller studios for different reasons. You can take some 25 to 50 to 100K for 6, 12, 18 months, and that would be another simple decision. It's just you need to talk to people and find them. The third way, which is similar to the second one, it's just for different people, is the crowdfunding. If it's a small amount of money and you speak English or any international big language like Spanish or Chinese, you could crowdfund your game because there are a lot of people in the world who speak this language and they like games. And then the fourth one is venture capital. There is a fifth one which you can take money from a big strategic investor, which would be like a Playrix or Tencent of the world. But you need to have a name to really take this money. They're not just giving money to everyone. So we will park it for a moment. And then the fourth one is a venture capital, which I mentioned. You only need venture capital money if you want to build a business and you're targeting a big audience. Otherwise, you have zero chance to get venture capital money because the venture capital business model is to give 1 million to 100 people and then generate 1 billion from one person, which is 10x for them. In case they generate 100 million from one or two studios, it's just even for them, which is a lot of money actually from one studio. In order to really generate 100 million in game development, you need to work for many, many years. So that's why I think venture capital in gaming is not increasing for the last 4 or 5 years, because they're trying to find a new model. And you see a variety of different mixtures of venture capital with something else. So I would say if you're really commercial and you want to build a new big game which will replace an old game which is became boring for variety of reasons, yes, go to venture capital. And if you wanted to understand more about anything that I just mentioned, just go to Andreessen Horowitz speedrun, watch their free videos, understand what they want and why they want it. They actively sharing it. It's one example is an American accelerator. There are many others, but those guys they just have so much free content, so you can understand what is actually required to be an successful venture-baked entrepreneur. And what are normally the companies that got their money from them in the previous batches, previous years. If you will like what you've seen, cool. You can go to them, or you can ask whatever GPT you use to find me similar accelerators. This is, I think, the simplest way to take venture capital money.
Yeah. Could you please repeat the resource that you mentioned? I think it will be very useful to include in the comments. I'll find it in the share the link. Is
Yes,
it
Andreas Horowitz speedrun.
okay? Thank you so much. Um, the third one that you mentioned before venture capital was uh, angel investments, right? Or yeah. If we are taking this path, do you think now that the industry is more volatile and there is once again this AI disruption, that the investors are looking for different criterions of success as opposed to what you observed earlier? Because you have quite a rich experience in raising investment. For our viewers, I'll share that Arthur has raised $1 million himself, and also the Balancy app that Arthur is advising has also raised $700 k $700K. So from your perspective, I would rephrase the question. So, drawing from your background, what are the key mistakes to avoid when pitching? And the next question would be more to the current times: is do you think it's changed right now? What investors are looking for?
I think it's changed and it will continue to be changing alongside the technology in upcoming 2-3 years. So the timing now is much more difficult than when I was raising. So normally when you raise money, what we were taught in venture capital fund and what is being taught in all the tier one funds is that you have 4 criteria why you would invest in any business. No matter AI or not AI is driving the world, you have a product, you have a market, you have finance, and you have a team. I think if you simplify it, the market is changing much faster right now. And then the product that you drive to market, there is a high chance you will pivot and change it in 6 months, much higher chance than
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. So the team that comes to the table and ask for money, I think they really need to use AI to iterate fast. And they really need to show that actually this is the direction, meaning this is the piece of the market we are aiming at. Would it be enterprise AI products for game developers, specifically for production and animation? We say that we're going there. Those are the hypotheses we want to test. This is our first one with the best traction. And this is the infrastructure we have in place to test all these hypotheses. Give us money, we will test it for you. And then if we're successful, we will skate what is the most successful one. I think before it also was the case, but now investors are viciously double checking the way you will test it. Otherwise, the competition will increase so much faster. People will learn about your success so much faster than before, thanks to AI. So you need to be faster. You need to show that you have tools and the way you think that you will be fast enough. That's, I think, the main challenge and what you need to do now versus before. The team itself and the product idea itself was so much more important. And that's one of the reasons we got the money that we wanted. Nowadays, it's still important, of course, but the way you go to market now it's becoming super critical.
Yeah, yeah. It must have been so nice to navigate those times when the idea was so valuable, and it allowed for this mind explorations of how you can improve the world without relying too much on other. um,
It was.
Yeah, but thank you so much. I think all the challenges that you outlined and the criterions to pay attention to, I think they are really helpful for students that are trying to understand the current environment and the current expectations. And I also like how you framed all the alternatives because I think it will make the path forward less intimidating for for studios. I think I also saw you participated, or you not participated, but worked with Neom's Level Up Accelerator. Would you say it is also one of the alternative paths for games, or is it in another category? Is it not for raising money, but
Oh,
for?
it's actually quite similar to the Andreas and Horowitz accelerator that I mentioned. This one is just based in MENA region,
Yeah, yeah,
but generally, Andreas and Horowitz speedrun accelerator and other accelerators that they have, they are the oldest one, and the alternative in non-gaming world was Y Combinator for a while. So basically, you had those two big ones in the US, and then nothing much outside of it. But in the last 5 to 10 years, many companies regionally copied the model and just said, okay, we'll focus on local studios,
yeah.
know more about them, and then we will help them to get success in our region and probably in some closer regions because we are expert in this region. And the Neom is just one of the examples in MENA region. Yes, a good one.
It is actually really great to observe how the local hubs are becoming also more and more emerging. I think you've shared that when you participated, worked with this accelerator, you also draw attention to how MENA is an important market to pay attention to. And for our viewers, I will also share that MENA is projected to have 500 million players by 2030. And beyond those numbers, from what you have seen in the accelerator, what do you think makes it especially a strategic opportunity for studios that maybe are not in MENA, not located in MENA, but are looking into this region as one of their markets?
I think if I simplify it and be super boring commercial gentleman for 30 seconds, when you build a game business, you look at audience size, cost of user acquisition, and LTV. If I simplify it, there are 500 million players. There are more than 430, I think, like today, and they're
Oh,
growing. That's good. There is still a relatively low cost of acquisition in this region because of the low competition compared to other regions like Latam and Southeast Asia, where it's low, but it's like growing much faster. And then the LTV is actually on average, people has higher GDP per person and therefore higher lifetime value in games than in the previously mentioned regions. And obviously, you have cultural difficulty. You need to not only localize to like a language, but you really need sometimes to change the visuals, change the
yeah.
narrative, because to many reasons, including religious ones, but not only like just cultural ones. You need to do it, and that's I think one of the reasons it's slowly growing because not that many businesses has done it. Hopefully, they will.
I, I, I do agree with you very, very much. I really love this tendency to be more culturally aware with the regions you're entering. And even though we, as a localization provider, we provide more like linguistic localization services, we also try to raise awareness about how the whole picture, the bigger picture, is very important, and especially in regions like MENA, where there are content sensitivities. We had a story. I really like to bring it up. So one of our clients had visuals that are for the European audience. It was a pregnancy app, and for the European audiences, it demonstrated in the App Store pictures this bare belly, and when the content was just being translated. An Arabic linguist flagged that this visual is actually inappropriate for MENA, and this inspired the change. So they redrew the image to cover the belly with address. And later for Japan and for Korea, they also redrew the images, but in another direction, for the style to be more cartoonish. Yeah, so I'm totally on board here that this culture, being culturally aware, is very important. I like to see the opposite tendency that regionally rooted studios, for example, like MENA rooted studios, can go global and also demonstrate how the culturally rooted visuals and creatives look like. So it's really nice to see this multicultural tendency. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
just play with your idea for a sec. Just wanted
yeah,
to. We mentioned a niche approach before. When you think about niche culture, I mean, it's 500 millions is obviously not niche. It's a lot of people in the world, but from entertainment perspective, their culture is still niche, and that's really a big potential. It's a really difficult thing to adapt, and you need to adapt it to the biggest market first, like American speaking, Chinese speaking, what's not, and hopefully they will do it. And the second thing I will say for them, and then for opposite businesses going inside of this region, like in localization, a friend of mine has been working for a while there, so I remember that, like, of course you have translators who could be technical translator, or like just a normal translator, but then you have editors who, like, people with really rich experience of, and normally with education, that helps them to give you advices. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw many people do not take these advices, and
Oh,
I think, I mean, if you just want a translation, that's okay. Maybe for some businesses that's enough, like news media or wherever. You just have a text. In entertainment and gaming, that's absolutely not enough, because it's a story, and you can skip the story and just not listen to a story and find another story like in a second those days. So if you really want your story to be heard and your game to be played, you need to speak with people their language and their culture. Otherwise you're just not serious about that, and that's okay. But you just need to accept that, yeah, I don't want to be successful in this region. I want to be successful only in the region where I am simple, I am me. And that's probably okay, but that's a different approach, and it becomes much more difficult to be that conservative in our world if you really want to be successful in, like, online entertainment. So that's why I think what you said is super important.
So you mentioned that if you don't want to be successful, you can just translate, right? I think it represents. Well, I know so I think it actually reflects some of the mindsets that studios may want to test the market by just translating without adapting, but then they get the unfortunate results, and their market hypothesis is failing, and they may be blaming it on the market not being promising, while they have just. Yeah, so my question was, it was more like about the how do you call it, the loophole, the deadlock, more like does it even make sense to localize just for to tick off the box of translation if it's not? it seems to be a waste of money if it's
I agree. Yeah,
yeah.
if you just really need to translate some news headline to really make sure that I understand this sentence, yeah, okay, you can use translate, and then you get the information, you move on. If you want to entertain people for hours, days, and months, it's barely. It's just not worth even discussing. Meaning that not even you need to distract your animators and artists and developers to build something, and to test a marketing idea or product idea. You just like you can just keep this like idea. You just when you're ready to really grow your business, yeah, of course you will need to localize it, and maybe it's being driven by the fact that many successful game developers in the last 5-10 years are mobile developers, and they've been super lucky with developed English speaking, French, and European speaking countries driving so much success for so many years, with all the platforms and app stores just doing half of the job for you. And it worked for a while, but now there's too much supply, too much competition, too many games. And like in other entertainment industries, you need to create local products for big markets. Obviously, you don't need to create like a product for a small country. If you're serious about business, it could be your last step, or
Yeah.
it could be your first if it's your country. You can start from the small market, but
Mhm.
then because of all the competition and because of too many games nowadays, the approach just do the Hollywood type of game production, just copy the big American game and just translate it all and just use the simple ideas. It's just not enough nowadays. It will not fly. And if it would have fly, those big companies would launch it, and they will launch it for sure because this is the business
Mhm.
model. Just copy your own success. For you,
Mhm.
it's a bit too naive to use this model in those days.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen yourself some examples that stood out to you where it was a great adaptation to the culture?
Um, I think one of the obvious examples about the adaptation for both the age and the culture is Brawl Stars by Supercell, and the fact that they spent a few years improving these games and they didn't land it properly the first time, even though they're one of the best game developers in the history of mobile games, at least, shows that there is a MOBA type of games, and it's been super popular in Asia for a while, and it became popular in American world in the last few years. Um, but then, if you go to the teenage and younger audience, and if half of the audience is Asian audience, you need to adapt your art style like dramatically. It
Yeah.
basically and then the pace of the game, the animations of the game, the text, the bubbles, everything which comes as the rhythm of the game, not only the basic static art, need to be adapted to the way these people think and play, and only then it entertains. Because otherwise, it looks nice, it's good, people will play a few times, and it's good, but not for a bit. Like for you as a solo game developers, it's amazing. People played your game a few times, and that's it. And they said a few nice words. Nowadays, no, you can copy the game mechanic, but the way you provide this in all the small details and small mechanics and art style and pacing and everything, you need to adapt it because people are changing much faster those days than they changed before.
Mm, I think another nuance to consider here, we touched on that before, but so we discussed how like there are emerging markets like Asia, Southeast Asia, LATAM, and studios may be driven to it because of the player community. But I think another aspect to consider, for example, in countries. I would say this may be more prevalent in South Asian countries. Is yes, if you go there and you don't adapt properly, you they will play a couple of times and then abandon the game. It is it is more impacted as well, maybe by the fact that the local gaming scene is also developing. So there is an increasing player community that attracts external studios, but there is a lot of competition as well, because the local scene is also developing, and the studios may be offering the already adapted domestic
Exactly.
um,
Yeah, I
experience.
mean, to be super precise, Vietnam has been a huge hub for mobile game development since 2021. And then in PC, Tencent, which is like Chinese African company, has been investing in Southeast Asia for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
they've been investing in local studios, and local studios became more like knowledgeable, and they have much more resources nowadays to really test more ideas, and to compete with those global game developers who are trying to come in outside. And obviously, because of the language and social graph and patterns, local studio, they have faster time to market. They can find people faster because they know people,
Yeah.
they live there. And maybe they will not be super successful with each iteration, but they normally will be faster with iterations. So if you want to enter this market, you need to be like much faster, and you need to measure your failures and success precisely. Otherwise, okay, maybe outside of Vietnam and a couple of countries there is less competition, but normally the Vietnam situation is becoming a thing in most of the countries in the world. So yeah, this competition which increases the quality benchmarks and the speed of iterations is like a new thing, and it's with us for a while.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really broad area for discussion, I guess. Um, if we would frame it into the actionable way for students, so you, since you've worked a lot with students, you previously mentioned that yes, for one. Small country, you can plan this, so it makes sense to localize for bigger regions, and it makes sense to localize for smaller markets later in your way. But generally, for a growing studio, when did you see? At what stage did you see the localization entering the picture, and not just localization, another market entry? So, is it at the stage of growth, or after some initial profits were already reaped?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I share, I think the simplest, most clear way for a small medium studio to operate is that you start in your own country if it's big enough to give you some data, maybe not money, but some engagement and qualitative feedback from local players, what they like, what they don't like. You change it, and then by the time you move to the soft launch, which normally includes a few countries in target regions, would it be Southeast Asia, would it be North America, you need monetary data in those soft launch markets. By that time, you need to have a localization strategy for both those markets and the next markets, because at the end of the soft launch, you normally scale, and you scale a lot. So you will not, like, you will have the soft launch to prepare your localization strategy. Um, that's, I think, the bit. And then this is about production and product side of game development. With marketing, it's it's generally faster to localize marketing. So I think, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks in advance to you launching some marketing in some particular markets, you need to start and you need to localize your assets, and then you should be all right. Um, that would be, I think, the simple, concrete answer.
Thank you. I think this is will be quite an actionable framework for the viewers to take home. You also touched on marketing. It made me curious. Have you seen the marketing being first and the product being second in terms of localization? For example, studios would localize their marketing assets, but acquire the players to the English only. Uh, User experience in English on the game. And what do you think about this tactic?
It works really well in casual games which are intuitive enough from UX and game mechanics point of view. So normally people would skip all the windows and all the pop-ups anyway, and they would just play. So if
Yeah.
you have this game, yes, you can definitely localize your marketing, and then you may keep the App Store English or not. You make localized App Store page as well. Nowadays, it's much easier than before. And then the game can be in English or in a big Spanish, Chinese language if you're from those countries. Or targeting this game studios. When you think outside of first couple of sessions and day zero, and you want to know about the retention, features, windows, narrative, and all of the things in this matter, they're highly affected by language and culture and context of where people live and why they play. So by that time, which is normally the soft, like the beginning of soft launch or the middle of soft launch, you need to localize your product or game to be super concrete. But yeah, if your game is difficult or your game is narrative driven, you need to localize early. That's why I think in Steam, it's really popular and people localize narrative games to a few languages, but even there, we don't see like 10, 15 languages because it's a big work. So yeah, I think for non-mobile, non-simple mid-core games, one of the reasons they're super popular in Asia and just becoming popular is just the time to market and the costs to go outside China and to play these mid-core games is much higher because you need to localize. The good thing is that people play lots of money in these games.
Thank you for sharing so many thoughtful reflections. I would briefly mention also that narrative games present, yes, they are it's very important to localize them. And in narrative games, it's harder to rely only on AI processes. So there is an ongoing discussion and ongoing developments in the localization AI. And we are also integrating different merged approaches where there is the AI translation layer and the human localization layer. And I would say that in narrative games, human translation and localization is so important because even in humor, it always, if humor that relies like maybe the humor can happen in dialogues or it can rely on some cultural references, and it's always left up to the judgment of a translator on what to do with the humor they need to translate. Sometimes there would be even a decision to just skip the humor because it would require an entire transcreation, and the game is not maybe designed for that. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, I would also side with you that narrative games, narrative-driven games are very are one of the top candidates for localization. We've covered a lot of ground here, but I would also love for you to briefly comment on the merger and acquisition topic, since you are quite uniquely, quite greatly positioned to comment on that. You previously contributed a thoughtful commentary on this topic. I would encourage our viewers to check out the Inside Electronic Arts $55 billion deal. This is a piece on gaming on phone biz that Arthur has contributed to. So I would just ask a general question regarding merger and acquisition. So, from your perspective, is consolidation more of a threat or an opportunity for game studios? And when should another question would be, when should a studio start thinking about an exit and making it attractive to acquirers?
That's a great question. I think when a studio should think about it is when the forecasted annual revenue that they generate is forecasted to become decreasing.
Yeah.
So by that time, if you don't have wonderful ideas to how improve it, you better start talking to investors. So you would be selling on the high rather than when it became a fact, and then you will just sell it in a dip, which is not great for you. You deserve more. I would have said. And then, is it a threat or an opportunity? Because we're not talking about like health, education, children, and food of the world. I'm not too negative about those type of things. I'm trying to be like super calm. So for me, I I would have looked at it as it will happen anyway. It is a threat for you, philosophically speaking, if you would like to think about this way, because bigger companies has more resources and they can sustain for longer. What you can do to resist this? Use all the technologies you can to resist it and to grow as much as you can. So your business margins and the amount of revenue you generate per person is super efficient and you can sustain with all these new technologies. So this, I think, the technology itself presents an opportunity. But then on the player side, it's a business layer. Then if it comes even closer to like particular players, users, there are still too many games, and the entertainment beyond games is growing so much in streaming, in music. They're all using AI as well, not that much as in gaming, but they will find a balance. And all these huge production studios that've been with us for like 80 years, so they will continue to try and find a way into mobile devices on top of TV devices as well. So you will be competing with all this entertainment and social apps, and you need to be really like, if you're an entrepreneur, you take it as a challenge and you work on it, and you use all the AI technology you can find to compete. I think if you're about entrepreneurships and competing, that's a great challenge, because now you have so much things you can use to compete.
Yeah.
Otherwise, consolidation, I think, will be continuing for many years.
Thank you for contributing your perspective. I think it will be interesting to observe how this dynamic is evolving now that you mentioned that there are a lot of resources for competition and more resource for we need more resources for individual and smaller studios. So it will be really interesting to observe the dynamics. And I hope the students can get inspired from your philosophical stand on mergers and acquisitions. I think we covered a lot of valuable insights. Thank you so much, Arthur, for sharing them with our viewers. To our audience, I'd like to say that I hope you take away some practical advice on strategy, operations, on AI, and on global growth. And I hope you can apply it in your own studios. Don't forget to follow Alconost and don't forget to follow Arthur for more insights on gaming industry and on apps and tech industry as well. And if you enjoyed today's session, please share it with your network and share it so more game developers can benefit from these insights. Arthur, any closing tips or advice or life wisdom for our viewers?
Just a really short thing. I think world nowadays needs creators. World needs entrepreneurs. I respect both of those people, and I've been respecting them. I've been trying to help from a commercial side of things to those type of people for a while. So please continue do what you do, and please continue use everything you can use to achieve it. Tools like Alconost and other tools. And thank you, Team Alconost, and thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye, everyone. And let's stay in touch.
Stay in touch.